riding high all through the 90s and living the rock star life. But for him, it was always about the music.
But I love making music. It's just great. And it always leads back to music. Getting signed was like that was the sign of success, not a Lambo.
But when you get the Lambo, the rock star life, and all the fame that comes with it, was it all that he dreamed of?
It probably was a bit more than people realize in some ways, and then a lot less, the cost. No one ever sees the cost.
Bush frontman Gavin Rossdale, today on The Pulse.
Don't let the days go by.
So they've been making hit music for years, an iconic band. Now they're on tour, a new album out. It's like they've been doing this forever. And he tells me, our guest from Bush, Gavin Rossdale, tells me, you just keep going. How are you? And welcome to The Pulse.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I don't know what else to do. I'm not that much good at anything else. So I'm like a artisan, someone who makes something, like a knife forger making crazy knives. I just have this artisan life making music. And anytime I try and do certain other things, I kind of get pushed back to, if you could just do Bush records, that'd be great.
So this was just, you doing a bunch of different things. You did solo music. You're continuing to tour, and people just kept saying, "Yeah, let's go with the Bush records." And
yeah, I mean, I did the solo record was 2008, and I had a nice fat hit off that, but it was a ballad, and his Love Remains the Same.
Everything will change, but love remains the same.
And I love that song. But I just felt like nobody wants a singer in a rock band with a solo record. Nobody wants it. It's just unwanted. You got to just, if you're in a band, keep it simple, play with your band or don't play. And I think that, so when I went on tour as a solo artist, everyone would be like, this is great. When are you doing, when's the band? Where's Bush, When I'd done movies, all the techs, the guys backstage, the gaffers and the crew. When's the next record, man? What's going on with Bush, And so I love doing that.
I mean, it's amazing to think, though, 30 years of doing this. But it just keep going, keep doing exciting new things. But it has always been about the music.
Got Eat with Gavin Rossdale TV show I'm trying to get made and funded. Not easy on TV, my goodness. That's an ongoing, oh my God. And in movies, whenever I can or get offered things or get an audition, it's so much fun to do that. And it's kind of nice to do the acting because you interpret what someone else's work and words and character and all that stuff. You bring it to life as best you can, but you're not starting with nothing. Like I'm interpreting someone else's work. When I do music, I literally start with a blank page on a screen. But I love making music. It's just great, and it always leads back to music. Because if I get do anything else outside of music, it's like I want to go back to my first love.
First of all, I might know some people to help you with the TV show. This may be a way we can work together and do this. So I got you. We'll talk. But take us back, because it's been a career that people have followed for a long time and continuing to do the music. And I don't know how many people know, what was that big break?
What sent me there was one man flying over to England and coming to see us in a rehearsal room in Harlesden, which is like sort of the heaviest, it's meant to be the most dangerous projects in Europe. And there was a studio there. We used to go and do our demos at, real great place. And this kind of very sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but definitely not street. What's the word? If someone's not street, what is it? It's like green.
Very corporate.
There's a guy who from Encino with a tightly, he wasn't ready for the projects in Harlesden. So he arrives and, he's ushered into the studio, gets out of his Mercedes. They haven't seen those kind of cars unless you're a dealer there, And so he came to the studio and he took a chance on us, Rob Kahane. He took a chance on us when no one else was doing so. And I mean, I was signed in my first band to Epic. So I did a few singles with Epic when I first began. Then I had a band that no one cared about, or cared about even less. That broke up, and then I began Bush, and I couldn't get it signed. And I used to think that getting signed was like that was the sign of success, not a Lambo, or not like the caviar on a jet. Yeah. In my life, it was like, that guy's got a record deal. She's got a record deal. You got a record deal? Oh my God, it was the biggest thing ever. So that was the biggest thing that ever happened to me. It just took that one person to believe in me, which they did. And then the rest is whatever.
Don't let the days go by. Glycerine.
You were living the rock star life, the movie star life. Was it everything that it was cracked up to be? Everything we out there thought it was?
It probably was a bit more than people realized in some ways, and then a lot less, the cost. No one ever sees the cost of when you travel and you tour and you go on tour for 3 years, like we did when we first began, basically, you erode and you deteriorate all the relationships around you. Like you're not quite as in with everyone. You've been gone, and there's a price to pay. And so there's that human cost that anyone in a band, that's every band, that's every single band, every single genre, that by being away, it costs the family, it costs the friends, it costs the parents, so I'm not, I'm not playing a violin. I'm just saying that's the reality, that no matter who you are, the effort that it takes, the kind of sacrifices that have to be made are real.
Doesn't sound like the violin. I think what's interesting, and the reason I like having those kind of conversations, is because I don't think that most people get it. Like, most people sit back and go, man, I would do that. I would trade that life. I would be on the tour forever and everything's all good. And so it's interesting when you hear it.
That is the basis of the kind of like madness of FOMO, because there's that great Jordan Peterson concept of, like, you might see a guy driving down the street in a sports car with a hot blonde in the car, and he's and you're like, man, I want that life. And he's like, how do you know the car's not not borrowed, not rented? She's not a cool girl, and he's with a drug problem, and he's just like in over his head, just trying to keep up because he thinks that's what people are going to do. We hear stories of young bands coming in and take their entire advances to go buy a big car so they can like flex. It's like, you got to live, you got to eat, you got to make the music, you got to pay people to help you. So those illusions are dangerous. I think that the world is so cynical and always against the artists. Now after the pandemic, the prices of everything. There are people. There's a kid, I tell you, that we're going to take on tour. Really good band, really decent band, great players, great people. He was happy to come on tour with us. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to get in trouble with his label, but he's going to come out with us, and his single didn't chart, and so they pulled the tour support. So now he can't play on these like 5 weeks of sold out shows to 4,000 people a night. That would really help the band. So it's like those kind of things are super unfair.
DJ Jazzy Jeff was here not that long ago and was talking about when he and then the Fresh Prince, Will Smith, had sold millions and millions of albums, and he had $500 in his account. And people just didn't understand all of the behind the scenes of the industry. Do you like the role that you get now? Talking about that other band that shall remain nameless. Do you like the fact that now, as kind of a seasoned member of the game, you can share that information?
Yeah, I mean, I feel sort of vaguely powerless about it. It's good to talk about because things aren't going to change, and I'm all about the progress. I mean, for example, I love Joe Rogan. I think he's incredible. I love him. Really enjoy his podcast. Smart, inquisitive. He's just excellent. Now, of course, to join Spotify, he got very well paid to join Spotify. But of course, Spotify is built on the back of the musicians that have been complaining for years. And this is not Joe Rogan's fault by any
Yeah.
means. This is the nature of the business.
Sure.
That these guys that come in and they get these advances, but the people that make the music that go on there, it's really hard to figure out how you kind of, the remuneration is not quite there, you know, in any kind of major way. You have to be selling millions and millions and millions of streams to make anything realistic. So it's sort of it's unfortunate. It's just the way that it is.
I said I need you now. You are everything to me. More than machines. More than machines.
You're on tour. And one thing that has never changed, and you talked about people sit back and say, oh, that's great. You're in the movie. When's the next tour? When's the next album? That has never stopped. So through all of this, you still have people who want to pay and want to crowd arenas to see you guys perform.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm like so grateful. You know, you have two kinds of people in bands. You know, there's sort of that punky approach where you kind of flip off the audience and kind of create some kind of tension, or you're just sort of madly grateful for the life that they provide for you, that they give. You know, that support is everything, because, you know, music is only works with two people involved. You know, like you play it and you listen or whatever. You know, so I'm just consistently blown away by people's support and showing up. And, you know, I see it every day where I come across people in just regular life. There's always one or two people a day who will stop me and name a song that has a particular impact for them, what it did for them. Often I'm mostly it's about giving people a sense of ownership back to themselves, a sense of self and a sense of power and a sense of resolve. I don't like doom and gloom, you know, lyrically, where there's no resolve, there's no way out. You know, you're in a sinking ship, you're in the Titanic, and you're going to run out of air and you're going to die. I just always like, here's the door, here's the way out.
I've read different things, like very thoughtful in even the critics, the analysis, the reviews of your music. That kind of stuff resonates with you, or it used to. Does it still? Have you gotten to the point now where you realize how many people enjoy seeing you perform, and some of the people who in the past, you know, kind of seem to enjoy being critical, you just kind of push them to the side?
You get a sort of sense. I mean, you know, criticism is essential. You know, nobody's perfect. So some critics whose lives are dedicated to listening to 10 records intensely a day for their work have built up a historical context that is impressive. Some of the, you know, and so when it's a constructive, albeit if it's justified criticism, you know, you can read it and you can think about it, and actually you can use it to your advantage, you know, and be like, okay, I'm gonna consider that going forward. But when it's just straight up sort of personal and just, you know, then it's just someone's just trying to have an argument with you silently, like poking you and then jumping behind a wall because, you know, you never meet them. So that stuff is just annoying.
Let's talk about the music. You talk about great songs. It's all about the music. You're on tour. You'll be here in Atlantic City in February. Tickets are still available as they continue to tour all over the place, nationally as well. What are we seeing in tours now when we come to one of your shows?
Well, the last few years we've done quite a few co-headlines, touring this summer with Alice in Chains and Breaking Ben, where we opened up for them, playing an hour, and you generally played an hour. So I don't want to play 3 hours. I don't think anybody needs to hear us for 3 hours. You know, I don't need anyone to hear anything for 3 hours. But playing for an hour gives you're playing a set where you just basically sprint. It's a sprint. You know what I mean? It's a sprint, and just sprinting and taking no prisoners and just trying to win the battle of the bands that night.
I don't wanna come back down from this cloud. Taking me all this time.
Some of the people we talk to, and you look at largely the 90s bands, like there are now whole satellite channels of the 90s. There's this cult kind of following as we get older, do you ever sit back and go, wow, like people have loved us since the 90s? That's kind of cool. Like we're a thing now. And it's been a thing for 30 years.
I don't know. It's something about it is a bit revisionist and a bit, I'm being so English, we're kind of self-deprecating. And so it would mean sitting down, stopping and congratulating ourselves, which in of itself seems weird to do.
Okay.
I just would be like, what are you up to today? I'm going to tell myself how great it's been for the last few years.
People have loved me for 30 years.
So therefore that doesn't make sense. I think that there's always been an analogy I like about that thing. It's a bit like being in a dance competition. You keep playing and you keep working and you just don't want to get tapped on the back. You just working real hard to just avoid that tap because you don't want that tap. Nobody wants to be tapped. And thank you.
David Bowie told you years ago, I saw in an article, that to get past all of the nonsense, you just outlive your critics. You just keep going.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've had a few run-ins over the years with certain publications, or not run-ins, where they've, haven't been enthusiastic about the band. But now the personnel have changed and it's different people. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Those critics, I really did outlive them. I don't think I actually physically outlived them. I hope, I was never that mad. I didn't take it that serious.
Right.
I'm hope they're living, perfectly comfortable, lives, contributing to the world in a positive way. But they don't seem to be around as much, and that's okay by me. And I did.
I know that you've got rehearsal, so we're not gonna. You actually have to go and make sure this tour that we're talking about is going to be ready. So
I do. My son, more importantly, but as importantly, my oldest son has a soccer game match at 3:30, so I've got like 4.5 hours of rehearsal. So I'm like warming up in the car. My car's already packed with everything. I'm gonna run out here and I'm gonna warm up in the car and then get out and be like, okay, let's work. We've got 4.5 hours.
It's interesting that you mentioned your son, because I was gonna go down that path. In reading a lot of articles, you kind of talked about the rock star dad and how that has changed over the years. And it sounds like you're rushing out to a soccer match or something like that. Have you seen kind of that evolution of the rock star dad life as your kids get a little bit older?
Most parents are really good and they just put a lot of effort in, as they should. And if you have children, I think we have a responsibility to watch them and mind for them and can't just sort of leave them. And, I rehearsed, was it yesterday night before, in the day, and then went and did like an hour of flag football watching and then 2 hours of watching baseball training. And it was really cold. And I was like, my voice, I felt like Pavarotti, all paranoid about my throat. I was like, oh. And then you don't want anyone to talk to you in the park. It's so cold. It's like, if I just shut up and I've got the scarf on, I'm just like bundled up. It's not going to hurt my voice, right? Because like as a singer, you got to think about all these things. You can't be standing outside when it's like 40 degrees for an hour doing nothing or watching kids not catch the ball.
This is that segment, Celebrities, They're Just Like Us. Final question. We always end the Pulse with the concept of use your voice for good and ask people what that means for them. So what does that mean for you?
Well, I really am in the luxurious position of being able to put my thoughts into songs. My job is to not lead people to say things. I'm not a preacher or a politician, but I'm allowed to say, hey, shouldn't we be talking about this? What's happening here? What's happening here? Feel good about this? Is everyone on board? So that's I'm really, really fortunate in that I do have a voice. It's not the biggest voice in the world, but it's a voice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's good fun.
Thank you, of course, again for watching The Pulse today with Bush frontman, musician, and 90s icon, Gavin Rossdale. Had fun talking to him and hearing some of the behind-the-scenes stories of what it's like to be a star, but also continuing to make the music over the years. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember that you can always hear the entire episode, the podcast, all places where podcasts are available. And next time on The Pulse, I'm sure you remember her song, Finally. I'm not even going to sing, but CeCe Peniston will join us. We hope you will as well.
It was like God said, you have something different, which at the time, I didn't understand what that different was.
And I leave you as I always do, reminding you that whenever you can, use your voice for good and have a good one.